What's up, Power Project family? So, did you guys know that Element Electrolytes, our hydration sponsor, that has 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium in little easy packets that you can pour into 20 ounces of water, is also the official hydration sponsor of #1, the U.S. Olympic weightlifting team. Special Forces, 3 different Special Forces teams, NBA teams, NFL teams, real athletes that do a lot of work, that sweat a ton, hydrate with Element, which is why we're so happy to have partnered with this amazing company that has amazing electrolyte supplements that the flavors are so good. My personal favorite is raspberry. Second comes orange. Third is citrus salt, but I think citrus salt is actually Andrew's favorite. And they also have this Fiesta pack that has mango, chili, lemon habanero, and chocolate flavors that I think are actually pretty great. I think they're pretty amazing. But you guys can get all of these different flavors that taste great and use it pre-workout to perform at your highest level.
Take your hydration and your workouts to an elite level, just like the pros do. Head over to drinklmnt.com/powerproject. Make sure you guys check out the bundle packages. You get 3 boxes of your choice, any flavor, plus you get an additional box absolutely free. So again, that's drinklmnt.com/powerproject.
It's really not, it's not that. I mean, I don't think that you need to try to follow it like you're in some sort of fucking cult or anything, you know, just eat a lot of meat. And if you slip up here or there, so what? But just try to go the whole month mainly eating meat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that difficult at all.
Nah, it's fun.
Sounds reasonable. I mean, because for your World Carnivore Month, you're going in very strict, right? But you're saying everyone else can kind of maybe have some vegetables here and there if you feel inclined to.
Yeah, I'll probably try to like not have cheese in there and stuff like that. Just because I know that I'll just roll through In-N-Out Burger every day, and load up on that kind of stuff. So I'll try to keep it. I'll try to keep it pretty tight. But yeah, the World Carnivore Month coming up this January, courtesy of our boy Dr. Baker, and I think it's just a good cause, good thing for people to jump in on, a good way to reset their bodies and get away from carbohydrates and maybe get away from some of the onslaught of all the crap that they ate at Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah, speaking of In-N-Out, so I got an awesome gift card from our company party. That was what I got in the white elephant gift. And I tried to go this weekend and it was impossible. The line at the one nearest, the In-N-Out closest to me, was impossible. It was so many people. Like, damn. Whoa, look, everyone at Five Guys, there's no one there.
Wonder why there were so many people there, though. Like, there's nothing special going on.
It's just a normal day at In-N-Out, I guess.
Normal day.
Yeah.
Well, Five Guys, also doesn't have a drive-through, right? So like they're probably really dying.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
They're probably really struggling. The only thing I like a little bit better about Five Guys is just that the burger, I think, is a little less salty. But that's about it. It's In-N-Out's a lot cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
You see how like Mark mentioned what he likes about Five Guys a little bit more, but you see how he was so smart to realize that Five Guys didn't have a drive-through. Just the intellect of an individual who likes Five Guys more than In-N-Out seems to be.
I'll give that one to you. Yeah, Mark's definitely on a H&L. I'm more of a simpleton where I'm like, Flying Dutchman, it's like $2.50, whatever they call it over there at Five Guys. It's like $10. Like, no, I'll just go have the good one over here.
The pricing is ridiculous. I will hand that to you. The pricing is ridiculous.
Yeah. No, Five Guys is really good though. I went there with Mark and we went to town on whatever comes out of their foil thing. And it was really good. It was really good. I'm not gonna front. It was good, but it's just not In-N-Out.
Fair. It's funny the battle like online, like when they have like the pictures of the different burgers, and really all of them looked like none of them really looked that good except for on like a commercial. They all just look like a burger slapped on like a plate with a bunch of grease falling all over the place, which doesn't look good, but we know how good it tastes. And it's just funny because they're like, look at this skimpy burger I got from, it's like one bad experience and everyone like posts it and they jump on it and it's a real battle. I don't know if Five Guys, do they have a secret menu? Like secret menu is a thing.
No, Yeah, no, I think they do. Oh God, I forgot what it's called, but you order it like a certain style. It's something like everything on it or something like it's a like a code for that where they put like
Kitchen sink.
Yeah, they put like all kinds of extra stuff on it. And I forgot who told me about it, but I'm like, ah, shoot, now I gotta go try that. You know, like I want to, I gotta see what like the ultimate experience is before I keep talking crap about it. But
is it not as fun now because there's like a whole internet thing of like the secret menu? So
yeah, no, I mean, you remember what it was like back in the Nintendo like era when you had to like
found a code.
If you knew a code, you got it from a friend or a relative. Like they told you in person. You didn't look that up. And then eventually, like Nintendo Power, the magazine came out. Man, Nintendo Power, Power Mag. Eventually, that came out, and you started getting secrets and tips and codes in that. But before that, there was nothing. So, I think
you're a real nerd if you have a cheat code book.
Hey, we all did. I know I did. I definitely did.
Oh, I've had them before too. I'm just saying. It just means that you're in. It just means that you're in pretty deep.
So yeah. I would go to Blockbuster back in the day. Wow. And I would go through their magazines in the corner and I would have a little notebook and I would write the codes down because I didn't want to buy the whole thing. Well, I couldn't buy it, but I would write the codes down. And then one day an employee caught me doing that and he was really cool. He was like, can I see that real quick? And he's like, what page are you on? I'm like, this one. And he went and scanned the whole thing for me. I was like, oh shit, like, this is dope. Yeah. I mean, I was like, I don't know, like 10 years old in the corner of Blockbuster, like hiding, trying to write codes down. So that was pretty cool.
So nice.
Yeah. But
that was so nice.
What you guys got going on for the holidays, for Christmas and stuff? Anything spatial?
To be honest, no. There's a tree here. Probably just going to open some gifts and yeah, it's going to be the most socially distant Christmas ever.
That's too
What about your mama? You going to get to see your mama?
I don't know if we're going to be doing anything at her place. We don't really. This is the funny thing. Like we like Christmas, but we've never, at least as a family, we've never done any formal Christmas stuff. It's never been that big because it's only been the few of us. So we exchange gifts, but it's never been like a big Christmas thing.
You see your mom all the time anyway, right?
Yeah. I saw her a few days ago. I'll probably go see her today. So, yeah.
We celebrate a lot of holiday stuff in this family, but we also kind of feel a little bit similar to you, where like we see each other all the time. We buy each other shit all the time. Like it's not uncommon for someone to be like, "Hey, I just grabbed this for you because I thought of you." You know, like people do that in this family all the time. They don't wrap it up or anything. They're just like, "Oh, I was at the store and I thought this was funny, or I thought this was cool." So like we don't on Christmas. It's kind of weird because you're like, now you have to buy someone a present and it just feels weird. And then none of us really care. None of us care to receive a gift, you know? And so I don't know, we try to make it, we have a lot of children in the family. So we try to kind of kick it over to them and make it fun for them. Cause it's amazing to see how much excitement they have just opening it. Like they're so pumped just to open a gift or to run to the tree and see that there's presents under it and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like we'll like let's say we get like a certain gift for like one of my nieces or nephews. It's like a 3-item gift. Like it doesn't matter how small the smallest one is, but we'll wrap that one up and make that one a big deal. And they get so fired up and they open it and they don't even care that it was like, you know, something from the Dollar Tree even. They just like they get excited because they want to open something up. So it's definitely for the kids, obviously, but like in our family, like for the adults, we'll do a Secret Santa where we draw names just so that way, you know, we're not all buying each other something, you know, spending more money on each other. And that's pretty cool. You know, like, as every year, you know, like, oh, you know, shit, I got, you know, the same person again this year, or like, oh, finally I got someone new. Cause there's only, you know, a couple of us. So the chances of you getting the same person year after year is like highly likely. But Christmas will go almost as normal with the exception of missing one house this year. So we're starting on the 23rd. We're doing that on Stephanie's side. 24th will be my side. And the only one that we're not doing is the big, huge family one at my uncle's house, which is Stephanie's mom's side. That's the one that we're not doing this year because that one is would host the most people. But as far as like my immediate family, everything's almost going to go as normal with, I don't think hardly any exceptions. It'll just go as planned, do it for the kids, hang out, and hopefully don't eat too much stuff, but we'll see how that goes.
You're having a Corona party. Trying to tell us you're having a Corona party.
Dude, truth be told, so Stephanie just got tested. We went to the labor department. What's it called?
Sounds good enough.
Yeah, labor and delivery yesterday.
Labor department.
Yeah.
File a complaint.
Yeah. We had to go work. And because of one of her symptoms, and if you look at the symptoms list of Corona, dude, it's everything. Like literally, like, are you breathing oxygen? Oh my God, you might have it. We got to test you. So she got tested, and there's that slight pause of like, oh man, this, like, we're not worried about it, but this actually could change quite a bit of like our plans coming up. And she got tested and she was negative. So yeah, nothing's going to change for us, but it was weird. She got the swab up the nose, and I guess they ram that thing up your nose, and then they go 1, they twist it, 2, twist it, 3, twist it, and then pull out slow. And she's like, hurry up, like count faster. Yeah.
It's very
so we're all good. Yeah. Cause I'm like, well, shit, if you got it, then I definitely have it, but we're all good.
Do people drink in your families?
Yeah. In my, on my dad's side, the extended side,
people get hammered at some of these parties.
Yep. Although I haven't like been to any of them in a hot minute, but I remember, people would drink pretty good. Yeah. And then my dad,
people get pretty hammered at the parties that we have. And it's just, like, I don't really drink that often. And so, I usually end up like just doing something with the kids or something because everyone's cool. Like, everyone's hammered and they're having like a lot of fun doing something that you kind of need to be drunk for. Otherwise it's just not as fun. Like, you're not necessarily drunk, but you need like, you don't need a buzz to have fun, but it just makes whatever it is you're doing more fun. Like, they play a lot of games and stuff, and it just is, I don't know, it's more awkward unless you got a little pre-game buzz going on, Mm-hmm. So I'm usually like doing something with the kids or just like watching them play video games or whatever, something like that.
Oh man. Yeah. Video games used to be a huge tradition for the, when we'd have like the big, like Christmas bash. I'm like talking
Nintendo Wii or something.
So maybe about that time, whenever, like right before PlayStation 2. So whatever that era was. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I was thinking about this because on Twitter, somebody was like, these are the games that were released the year I turned 14. And, some of those are like kind of on my backlog, which, they just came out. I'm like, oh shit, looking around the room, I'm the oldest guy here. But so I looked back at the games that released when I was 14. And so just real quick, like Medal of Honor, the original one, Gran Turismo 2. Siphon Filter, if you guys remember that one.
I remember that.
And then Tony Hawk.
I was going hard on Siphon Filter. I was like working on those docks and shit every day. Dude, like loading shit you had like the you had like a forklift and you could like load boxes and stuff like that. I forget exactly what I was doing, but it was hilarious because I was playing that like you get just
I gotta look this game up.
Dude, Siphon Filter. So it was kind of like James
Andy
Bond
would always tease me. She's like, remember you had that job where you're working on the docks? I'm like, yeah, that's a Siphon Filter. I was driving a forklift.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That and then Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. But that was when Madden got really good. And that's what we would all the cousins, I'm talking like 20 of us, would play like a huge tournament on Christmas Eve because we'd open our presents at midnight. So we didn't have shit to do the entire day. So we all just played PlayStation the entire day. And
that's the kind of shit you train for, like in the off season. Like as soon as December 25th hits, December 26th, you're like playing Madden, like trying to figure out how to beat everybody at that party next year.
Absolutely. I would prep for that for months, just like trying to get like my different schemes going and like trick plays and like, oh, so-and-so is probably going to pick this team, so I got to pick this team. But that's one of those traditions that we probably won't ever get back, just because of like everyone's doing their own thing, which kind of sucks. But that's why a bunch of my cousins are going to try to get the new Xbox so we can play online and get a season going. That'd be sick. Hopefully it works out.
What are some things? What are some things that you guys are like looking forward to doing? Maybe in 2021 that maybe got sidetracked by the coronaness.
Like you were mentioning, like I want to be able just to compete. I don't think anything else really got sidetracked that much. Training didn't get sidetracked too much because we can still train, although we're training in certain groups. So just getting back into competition mode, because that was the big goal this year. Got the purple belt, so I wanted to compete a bunch and have an opportunity to get promoted. But since I wasn't able to do any big competitions, that has to wait. So yeah, I want to do that. And that's pretty much, I'm trying to think of like other big 2021 things, but 2020 didn't stop me from doing anything else, I think, other than that. So,
if you really think about it, like obviously a lot of people died. I don't want to, tarnish that at all. But like, aside from, there's been a lot of people that have died. A lot of other individuals' lives haven't been all that impacted if you really think about it. So what? You got to wear a mask when you go to the store, and there's the fallout of all the things going on with all the restaurants and all those people that lost their jobs, and some of those people had to fold up shop and lose their businesses and things like that. But if we're just talking about like the three of us, if someone's say, hey, like if it's 2030, someone's like, hey, like what was 2020 was wild, right? Probably looking back at it, we'll be like, it depends on how much longer this kind of stuff lasts and I guess what comes of it. And I could say, yeah, it was a tough time. Like people didn't know what was going on. And there was a lot of fighting about what was right and what was wrong. But looking back on it, our lives haven't been impeded nearly as much as we like to complain about, we haven't we're not, on an app with contact tracing. We're just like not people mandating like when we can leave our homes and all these different things. They've done some stuff. They have a curfew and they've implemented some things. The tough thing is that I think we all know is that the mental side of it, because people just aren't able to communicate quite the same way that they were, and wearing a mask, you can't see people smile. And there's a lot of stuff like that we won't know for a long time. We won't know what that kind of fallout looks like. But if most of us are being honest, your day to day, what you can do day to day, probably hasn't shifted that much, unless you're one of the unfortunate people that did lose a job. There's a lot of people who've had that happen, but some people have just shifted. They just shifted to a different job or different career because where some areas have really fallen off, we have our businesses right next to Amazon, and the streets are completely packed and filled with the Amazon trucks driving in and out of there all day long. So it's like those, these things are not, they're not autonomously driving yet. There's people that are driving that. There's people that have picked up jobs in other spots where they can. But it's just, from a mental perspective, like you're saying, not being able to compete in your tournaments. For me, like I would love to be able to run some seminars again and things of that nature. But I really don't have much to complain about. I don't feel like we're really missing out on too many different things. I went to Tom Thornton's bodybuilding show, and I thought that kind of, it was his first show, so he doesn't know any different, but I thought it kind of just sucked because you just don't get the same interaction that you have when you go to a bodybuilding show. A lot of times you end up meeting a lot of new people and stuff, and people were just really cautious and they were keeping their distance from each other. And it was just different. It was just way different. It was like very like somber. There was like no music. It was just, everybody kind of seemed like, hey, I just want to kind of get this thing over with and get out of here. And there was a lot of rules, and people were kind of yelling at the competitors often and telling them to keep their masks on and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's kind of the biggest difference is what we will see, more so from a mental perspective rather than like physically, you can't do A, B, or C.
Yeah, just like you said, when we look back, I think, maybe our kids will ask or something, maybe grandkids, Mark, about, like, oh my gosh, you guys were on lockdown. You couldn't go anywhere. It's like, well, that's what they said, but we all kind of still, we got to get groceries. And then, yeah, everyone did buy up all the toilet paper. So we had to figure something out. But yeah, I'm in total agreement with you. Like things got weird even within my own household. Like work got weird for my wife. But for the most part, yeah, I feel very fortunate and grateful that we didn't really have to do anything crazy, or nobody really close to me got super infected with, the virus to where it was like, oh my gosh, like this, like, we really got to be careful. Even though a lot of people that I know did, it was all kind of a breeze. Like nobody really, like almost, yeah, everybody was like, no, this just feels like a bad cold. But, for me, next year is going to be one of the most, if not the most interesting year of my life. I'm going to have my first son. So, next year I'm hoping, things can open back up to where we can do some of the things that we really like to do, but also, so this past summer, my family and I, we like to go camping. We like to get out there. We got paddle boards and stuff, and we didn't even go out once. And, come to find out, that's like one of the things that people actually did do to get away. And at the time it was just like, no, like, let's just be careful. Let's not, put anyone in the family in danger. Let's not, add to the people kind of like rebelling or whatever, like, we'll just chill. We'll wait this out and see how long it goes. And then you blink and like, oh man, summer's over. And that's, that's our favorite time of the year. At the beginning of the year, I bought a DJI, like kind of like a GoPro camera, but the DJI version of it. It's like, oh, this is going to be sick. I'm going to have this on the paddle board. Like we'll be in the water. Like this is going to be so cool, an action camera. And we didn't use it once. And I was so bummed out. Like I actually saw the battery, like one of the batteries that I bought for it over the weekend. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that we even bought that damn thing. So I'm hoping to, just to welcome my son into like a really cool world where that's not, full of masks. And not that I really have an issue with the mask other than, sometimes they can hinder your breathing, but, just a world where like, hey, we want to go to the park. Like, let's go to the park and not have anybody look at us weird if we're not wearing a mask, like that sort of thing. Not that he's going to remember next year, but I still want to do a lot of cool things with him,
I think people aren't really, because I was outside, we were looking at some lights yesterday, and people were walking around without masks, man. I think that that's people cool. Like at this point, I mean, yeah, in a grocery store or whatever, like people are going to be wearing masks. But when I see people outside just walking around, masks are off generally. Like the vast majority of people have their masks off, and this is Sacramento, right? So I feel like people are probably trying to be more careful here than other places, but I think people are just kind of tired of it.
Yeah, I think people are tired of it, and then the news will continue to show you the numbers. I remember a time in our history where they showed the death count, on TV. It's like, it's just absurd. They show that death count creeping up every day. They show how many more people have coronavirus every day, and I think that's actually helpful, but there's never a time where they're like, hey, like this is actually really cool. Like it sucks that we're losing people and it sucks that people are getting sick, but this is getting ourselves closer to herd immunity, and the vaccine's on the way. You hear quite a bit about the vaccine. And so that's good. But when they talk about like a community or an area, this area has had 30,000 cases. They've had more cases and they make it always sound like such a horrible thing. And it's like, well, again, half those people were probably asymptomatic. Anyone who died from it was probably pretty old as it is. I mean, I've had a distant relative die from it now, and they were in poor health since I've known them for the last 20 years. And they're also probably 75, 80 years old. And I'm not discrediting how they died or whatever, but it's never good to try to like play life so safe that you can't live your life is the way I like to live my life. And people live their life different ways. And so that's maybe how we get to all these different all these different conclusions. But I think another thing to think about too is for us, why are we saying like our lives haven't been, maybe impacted that much? And it's because of the controllables. Like, what can you control? Can you still lift weights in some fashion? Can you figure out, maybe not even lift weights, but just figure out a way to have some sort of fitness be part of your life still? Mm-hmm. If for some reason we couldn't get a hold of any weights, I'm sure all three of us would figure out something. We would do push-ups and squats or, something. We did some of that during like quarantine. And then what other things can you control? You can control your food. If you're controlling your food and you're controlling your exercise, you're controlling your mind. You really are. And rather than having your mind be controlled by the foods that you're eating and all the thoughts that you're seeing on the news, I think for all three of us, not saying that we're, so strong or something mentally that we just brushed everything off, but we're a little bit more prepared for it because we feel pretty good about ourselves on a given day. I feel pretty good about myself each day, especially when I feel like I accomplished a lot. I got a lot of work done for the day. I lifted. I can check all these boxes, did shit with the family. Went to Walmart last night with my kids, which was a hell of an experience. I haven't been to Walmart in a long time. Well, you kind of, at the end of the day, you can check all these boxes of all these variables that you can control. There's a bunch of stuff that you can't control. And if unfortunately you did lose your job or you did lose a relative or whatever it is that has happened, those are things that are, you have zero control over them. And 2020 for me has been amazing. It's like one of the best years of my life. I did lose my mom in 2020, which is a game changer for the family, probably, forever. So there's a lot of negative, but that doesn't wipe out the whole year. That doesn't mean that the whole year was bad. From a business perspective, from a personal development perspective, from a growth with friends and other family members and stuff perspective, it's been amazing. So, I think a lot of it has to do with your perspective and what are the variables that you have control over that you can still feel really good about.
Yeah. It's, I think one big thing that I've noticed about 2020 is like, first off, the news, like you mentioned, isn't helping. There's a constant death count going on. It's always very morbid. It's always very, just warning people about what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. So like I have a lot of friends that are having like issues because number one, maybe they are kind of stuck either in their apartment or where they live. They're not able to really go out and socialize as much as they really used to. So that really, like the social aspect I've noticed is something that really, really gets to people. But outside of that, like it is really like, what can you control? What can you figure out? Something that you can do now, because a lot of people do have a bit more time, right? There is, a lot of people I know are now working from home. So like there is more time to do certain things that you want to do or learn certain things that you want to learn. And it's just making that choice to go do something, learn something, take something up rather than, just sitting around and kind of being sad about how everything's going. And I know everybody's situation is different, but I do see that a lot. It's literally just a choice that you can make. Sounds really simple, but if you make that choice, we'll probably be much better off.
Yeah, really well said, Nsima. I like that. Well, both of you guys just crushed it. In regards to like the media and what everyone's been saying, it was really interesting. Yesterday, the doctor that basically said like, oh, we need to get you tested to my wife. He was like, oh, like don't be like nervous about it or anything. And she was more worried about just getting the swab jammed up her nose. But he was like, it's really not that big of a deal anymore. And she's telling me this. And I'm like, huh? He's like, yeah, I had it. I had like a headache for 4 days. Like I think he said he had a really bad headache. He's like, but after that, he's like, it's no big deal. I'm like, okay, here's a medical professional, an actual doctor, practicing doctor, saying that it's not that big of a deal. Why don't we hear more of that as opposed to the other? It's like everybody wants to talk about like oh, what are your credentials in this? And, everything people say, right? Whenever you bring up something, people have something to say. And again, here's somebody that had it, somebody that has the degree, somebody who's still, practicing. And he's like, it's no big deal. 4 days, you'll be over it. If you in fact have it, which she didn't. But I was just really surprised. I'm just like, damn, like, can you get that guy on camera? Because more people need to hear this, you know? So I was surprised, but it just seems like, like we need more people like that.
Your doctor's also talking to somebody that's healthy, that exercises, that's still young, you know, and so, you know, given the context of who he's communicating with, and also too, maybe he just saw that your wife was a little nervous and he's just trying to like, you know, he's not going to try to calm her down with a lie, you know, he's trying to calm her down with, you know, people that are our age are generally doing pretty good, you know, and you'll probably be fine because you're fit and you're still young. I noticed the news is really like, it looks like at the moment they're really trying to throw stuff out there and try to make it stick. Our local news, there's been so many like shootings, whether it's a cop shooting somebody else or somebody else shooting a cop, and it's like they keep trying to stick this stuff out there, or just shootings in general. And I think they're like really hoping that these things stick. And it's like, I'm actually really happy that these things aren't sticking, you know, like they were a couple months ago. But I kind of wonder like what the shift is, you know, and maybe it just happens that maybe it just so happens that it's not a black and white thing at the moment. And so they can't pin it to that, you know, and they can't drive that narrative and have that, you know, be a thing. But it's amazing to see the kind of uproar of all the stuff that went on early in 2019, and that's gone. And it's like, where in the fuck did that go? You know? And I think that people are getting smart, and I think people are kind of tired of the news and are going to form their own opinion. And it's like, okay, well, I got the message. Racism is still a huge deal. It always has been. It never went anywhere. Okay, now what can I control? What can I do about it? Can I go yell at all my white friends that I think are racist? Probably not a great idea. Probably not going to shift their mind. Probably not going to be able to do really much of anything about it. But, you know, can I do my best job to you know, just, I don't know, make sure I'm just living up to my own standards, whatever those standards might be. And then even people around me, if I hear someone say something that I'm not cool with, why not say, hey man, I'm not good with that. You know, I don't dig that, or just walk away. Any of those options are good, but you know, just try to think of the variables that you can control and the ones that you can't. I don't know if there's really a lot of great reasons to get pissed off about them or sad or mad or to even really try to do much about them. Yeah.
I was just going to ask you guys if you think people are just kind of like starting to wake up and kind of look at everything with skeptical hippo eyes, you know, like, is that true? Or, you know, and it's funny. And I think you're grinning, Nsima, because you might've watched the same thing from Andrew Scholes, the Netflix like whatever the heck it's called. But he was just talking about how, this whole year brought on like the popularity of conspiracy theories. He's like, you know, people started looking at things a little different, and then they started Googling stuff. And then, you know, when you go down that rabbit hole, you know, especially with like what the Social Dilemma movie or documentary told us, you know, once you start looking down one thing, it starts feeding you that same thing over and over if it finds that you appreciate and you like that sort of thing. But I think that's really what it is. You know, like I'll have my father-in-law telling me something where I'm like, damn, where did you hear that? You know, that kind of goes in line with what we've been hearing on the podcast. And it's like, oh man, he took the red pill or whatever, you know, he like broke out of the system.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I'll talk to my dad, and he's very much like, I forget which news he watches, but, you know, it's very much in line with that. And so I'm like, like, what if? And, you know, you try to like bring him over to this side. So I think, just everyone being at home, right? Like you got not much going on. So you start Googling stuff and you start waking up. And I think we've come quite a long way this year in kind of just trying to sift through the bullshit and figure out like for yourself what you believe, not what you're being told to believe.
Yeah. I think the advent of the Karen is the funniest thing about 2020, just to be perfectly honest. Like you guys have probably seen those Karen pages on Instagram where it all like
full on pages.
Yeah. There's a there's a page like dedicated to different Karen videos. And it's just gold. Like it's just a real gold mine of these. So these just very angry, very emboldened white women.
Oh man. And I mean, we'll definitely, we will get into all of this stuff about, 2020 in our year in review show, but thanks for reminding me. I got to write that down, because there was a whole Karen situation this year. This whole year has been like, oh yeah, that did happen, didn't it?
When you were saying that, when you talk about 2020, how you're going to talk about it, I really think when I'm 50, 40 something, I'm going to exaggerate the hell out of 2020. I'm going to be like, I couldn't cross the street without, somebody trying to call the cops on me because I had to keep socially distant. I'm going to exaggerate the hell out of 2020.
And if there was no cops around, if there were no cops around, then you were going to catch COVID. And if COVID didn't get you, the murder hornets would, or Karen would be yelling at you.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yeah, where are the murder hornets at?
Right. That lasted for like a few weeks or like a week or something. And then it just went away.
That's exactly what you were saying, Mark. It didn't stick. So it's gone.
God, it's not a good enough common enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What stuck for a long time when I was a kid was that it was like the US versus Russia. That whole thing stuck for a really long time. And there was always like this debate on whether they had missiles and what we had versus what they had. And that kind of whole Cold War thing, like someone's going to push a button at any second. And I think that lasted for like a decade. So that was a pretty good one that they got to stick for a long time. I mean, I'm sure there's definitely some truth to it and stuff like that too, but it's just stuff to try to, I don't know, just to get the people to watch the fucking news, I guess, and
movies, because Russians were always the enemy.
Yeah. Look at Rocky IV. It's great.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that I can't wait to get back to, freaking movies, man. There's nothing to watch. And I know, like Wonder
There's not even anything like in areas where you can go to the movie theater. There's really nothing out because no one's really made anything.
Yeah. Wonder Woman's going to be out on Christmas Day, which,
I'm here in Nevada and I can go watch a movie, but there's really nothing out. They have older stuff, which we've been thinking about going to see because that's just kind of fun too. But you want to see something new.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wait, what can you guys do in Nevada right now? Like what are you guys? Can you guys go out anywhere? What's going on?
Yeah, the restaurants are open and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
It's because so the atmosphere in Nevada, like when you get to that border between Nevada and California, it's just totally different in Nevada. So there's no coronavirus here. As soon as it's this imaginary line. But as soon as you cross the imaginary line, then you're totally fine.
Wow.
I know, it's amazing. It's
the temperature.
Even though people drive back and forth over that line, it's I think a lot of us are just frustrated with the fact that I don't think we have that much trouble with compliance. We don't have that much trouble saying, okay, we can follow those rules. But when the rules are dumb, you're like, these rules are fucking stupid. Why can I go over there and do this? Like, why is Walmart open with thousands of people in it? Shopping, finger fucking the food and all the stuff we've heard on our show, right? Like people are touching stuff and putting stuff back, and people are putting their hands all over handles and carts and whatever. And I know they're wiping stuff down or whatever, but that's really not probably doing a whole lot. And the restaurants are shut down. You can't go inside a restaurant here in Nevada. You can go in the restaurants, kind of same rules we had in California. You had to kind of wear the mask on the way in, and then once you sat down, you could take them off. Movie theaters are open. Gyms are open. Gyms are open like normal. Like you don't have to wear a mask on the way in or nothing. They're just completely normal. So I'm gonna get out to a gym a little bit later today, get some training in. But even while I'm here in Nevada, I'm the first thing I did when I got here is I cooked up an Icon meal, and today's the first kind of full day here. I'll go hit up a gym. I'll go get a gym membership, because these are things that are important to me, and these are things that I can control. I can't control a lot of other stuff, but I can try to keep my weight intact during the holidays, and I can continue to work on my goals and stuff like that. And having goals is great because you have something to aim for, you got something to shoot for, and then hopefully you're aligning a lot of the things that you're doing on a daily basis to get you head in the right direction towards those goals. And when you do that, it starts to occupy your day. Your day is pretty full because you're like, I got all these fucking goals I got to try to meet. So I may as well keep trying to gravitate towards them.
Yeah. Occupy your mind. Right. I think it was Tom was talking about this, about how, our generation is like the first to really have enough time to be depressed, because you think about like Great Depression, like they were probably all upset, but they couldn't really be depressed because they had to, survive. So I think what you said there, if somebody is having a hard time, isolated or, losing family members or someone close, occupy your mind, set goals, stick to them, and just stay busy. That's usually the best thing that helps me out. Is I'll write a list of things that I want to get done. Usually start with a single, like call it, instead of trying to hit a home run right out the gate. And that's been really beneficial during this time. But also, I thought it was funny because Grant Cardone, he had tweeted out, he's like, so in California, you can't open up a restaurant unless you create an inside outside. Like, then you're good to go. And it's like, I got a Black Bear Diner right down the street and they got tents all over the place. And we went and checked it out because I'm like, what is this like? I wanted to experience it, and I really just wanted to eat like a fat kid. And it was delicious. But it's, they do have everything spread out, but it's hardly any different than, what it would be like inside. It did get a little cold because, it's not sealed. So I guess maybe that's what they're hoping to accomplish by doing it outside, but it just sucks. I want to make sure these, it's not a small business, but everything around us kind of is. It would be terrible. Like, we moved to this really cool area if things started shutting down. My neighbor, they have a Mexican, it's called the panaderia. So it's a like they create like sweets and stuff like that. That's a bakery. There you go. That's the word. And I don't know how they're getting by, but they're doing okay. And it would be terrible if they had to shut down. Like, that shit would piss me off. They're really nice people.
Yeah, maybe they're just hoping that the wind's going to blow the coronavirus away at these restaurants because not some of those places too, and it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. But one thing I think all of us can be like extremely grateful for, and I'm like, I realized this in the middle of the year when you started seeing like what they were saying in terms of the coronavirus. We're already three people that like, we value our health, we value being in shape, and just being generally healthy. And with that in mind, that's part of the reason why we're not really scared. Like, I'm not scared of getting it. The only thing I'm kind of worried about is potentially I'm asymptomatic and I go over to my mom's place, and so I'm still careful in that sense. But I've been seeing or my mom's been telling me how, like, in the news they've been saying that, it's starting to kill young people too, and I'm just like, no. The fact that they're trying to even spread that message that it's killing young healthy people, no. Like, there's usually something underlying there. Like, when you look into some of these stories, you find that they had some type of asthma. They had something that was really, going to bolster that. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm most proud of for us and this podcast this year is the fact that, with the exception of like Dr. Buttar, he was very radical, not even radical. He just was like the first to be vocal about everything. So it seemed like it was over the top, but come to find out everything was like, oh shit, he was right this whole time. But I think we gave people armor in regards to what is being, shoved down their face when it comes to the media. Not so much to be like, hey, you guys need to rebel, don't wear your mask and, start coughing on people, but more like, hey, like, you can still thrive in this environment. You can still be a savage. And when somebody's freaking out, you have all this information that we've given you from our guests, from our experiences, to be like, no, it's not what they're telling you. Like, this is what I've, hopefully you guys have did your own research, in regards to anything that you heard here on the podcast. If you did, go move forward and tell somebody else about it. But yeah, for me, I think, when we look back this year, it'll be like, dude, like, we we had a very important role in regards to making sure people didn't freak out. People still had something positive to look forward to and something that people could just vibe with that wasn't pandemic, that wasn't like the, end of times. It was like, no, these guys are actually having a blast. They're healthy. They're still doing well. And it's just cool that we didn't shy away from that sort of thing this year.
It seems like the most perfect recipe, and that's why it's hard to not think about conspiracy theories. But as we point out on the show, we're like, well, who's behind it and why, would be some of the reasoning. But maybe the government is using it as some sort of like cleansing of some sort, that they think that they can kind of, control certain things a certain way and separate for the rich from the poor more, so they can get more towards an ideal that they feel is better. I don't know, but it's hard to watch it all unfold and not think like there is something really weird behind all this. Even if it's just somebody with some bad intentions, it's just, which you would think like how, like, just why, right? Why would someone have just bad intentions like that? But it is just so strange. All the big companies are open. All the smaller ones, not all the smaller ones, but most of the smaller ones had to shut down, except for those of us who are online, didn't have to worry about it as much. And that could just be because they couldn't find an excuse to shut down people that are online, but you got like, Amazon and Walmart and, even some friends that own coffee shops and stuff. Dutch Bros with a drive-through coffee shop, like that place has gone through the roof. The amount of tips that they got like tripled, because they're like, hey, what tip do you want to leave? And you're not allowed to touch the screen, and you can't do it like privately. So yeah, always you're like, I'll just pick the one in the middle, so I don't see like a cheap fucker, And
yeah.
So some of these companies have really kind of launched into being, a major success, way more than they used to be. And a lot of other ones have had to kind of fold up shop and crumble. But it seems like while the world has been on pause, it seems like in the United States anyway, it almost seems like it's the news mission to like pry us apart. Like if you watch it, you start to watch it, one thing will be about Black, one thing will be about white, one thing will be about Hispanic, one thing will be about Corona, one thing will be about rich, one thing will be about poor. And by the time the thing's over with, you may have sided up with something and not even really recognized it. You might not even know. But just your own internal bias, your own internal beliefs, you might have been like, yeah, that's stupid, or I don't like that, or you might have kind of showed hatred towards something without even really barely recognizing. So it's hard to sit back and watch all this happen and unfold without thinking that there's some sort of major conspiracy behind it all.
You know what, man? This actually, I'm really glad that you kind of mentioned that, because this has been a very scary year in that sense. When I look at people I know that are very close to me, when I look at the way that they think about certain things as far as like politics are concerned, and when I say that, I mean just the way they think about other individuals. Like I know people who immediately, once they know somebody's a Trump supporter, there's an automatic, they have this automatic idea of like, they're probably just like fucking bigot, or, they're fucking racist, or they're this, because they support Trump. When like, first off, that is a very dangerous way to think. And the same thing when people find out somebody's a Biden supporter, they automatically think they're a certain way. And it's like, people have really stopped looking at everybody as individuals and have really started looking at people as just, this is the way the group is. And the reason why I think that's so damn dangerous is because when you look at the way that the way racism actually works, it's like you look at an individual, whether they be Black or Jewish or whatever, and you have this assumption of who they are based off of the stereotypes of the group. So you look at a Black guy, a big Black guy, and you think that he's probably a criminal, this, or this, because of the stereotypes related to that group. Now people are starting to do that with people who support certain politicians. There's a stereotype about people that support Trump. There's a stereotype about people who support X, Y, and Z. And a lot of people I know who I would have never thought would take that kind of mindset are. And that's a really, really scary thing.
And what you said about the groups is really interesting too, because like my son and I, we talk about politics and we talk about a lot of different stuff. And he's mentioned like he doesn't like Walmart or he doesn't like Amazon. He doesn't like big business. And I said, you should like read the history of Walmart. Like you should learn about Walmart. Like Walmart's family owned and operated, you know, and that's like a legendary, iconic place that we all make fun of and, you know, kind of have jokes about, but that's a like multi-billion dollar like company. And yes, maybe when these companies get big and bulky like that, maybe their intentions change. Maybe they used to have a really awesome mission. Maybe they wanted to get, I don't know, pharmaceuticals to people that didn't have money for it or something. Like maybe it started off with something really kind-hearted and then turned into this massive thing. Mm-hmm. But Amazon is the same way, you know? And when Jake and I have talked about Amazon, I'm like, well, when do you start to hate a company or when do you start to hate a person? What's the switch? What would be the change? You know, oh, that guy's rich. I don't like him. But what's the dollar amount? Is it 100,000? Is it like, what's your money? You know, because it's so irrational that we may as well just put a number on it. Like, oh, that guy lives in Beverly Hills. I fucking hate him. But if he lives in Hollywood, he's cool. It's not that big of a deal. He's renting an apartment in Hollywood. Not a big deal. Even though the apartment's, you know, $4,000 a month or whatever, not a huge deal. But the guy that lives in Beverly Hills, I hate him. And then same thing with going back to the business stuff. You know, Amazon was started by somebody that just wanted to sell books. What's wrong with selling books? What's wrong with, you know, wanting to get great information out to people? And he was even going as far as to get out books that were out of print and books from other languages. What's wrong with spreading more knowledge throughout the world? I think it's a great mission. And now you can look at it and say, you know, they're animals and they do this and that, or who the hell knows what they do or don't do. I have no idea, but it's just an interesting thing to lump a group in and say, I don't like them because of this, when really you probably don't know much about them and you probably should learn more, you know, buy a book so you can gain more knowledge or communicate with people. Whenever I've traveled, I traveled to Japan and Australia and a bunch of different spots, France, Italy. And when I've traveled to these areas, I tell people all the time, like, I'm American. I don't know what's going on. I'm ignorant. And I was like, tell me what's going on around here. Or tell me this or tell me that. Or what does this word mean? Or what does that mean? And they're actually really kind. They're always like, oh, yeah. Okay, this means that. That means that. They have no problem giving you an education on it. So there's no reason to like hate on it. You should probably just learn more about it.
Yeah. And then just thinking about, you know, like when you were talking about tips and stuff, I don't know about you guys. So like I've always tried to tip as much as I can, like comfortably can. And then coming from you, Mark, like, you know, I can't remember. I think you might have texted me or something, but you're like, it always comes back, like no matter what. So do as much as you can. I know lately I've been doing like more than ever because I'm just so grateful when a store or a restaurant's open. You know, like you roll through like a Dutch Bros, like you said, and you're just like, man, like how you guys doing? Like you keep them busy, and you know. And the one next to my house it's always packed, so I'm always pretty fired up for them. But that's one thing for sure that this whole thing has taught me is just to be grateful for literally like more things than I would have ever even considered in the past. That's definitely one thing that, you know, that I've learned from all of this. And then what if you know, in trying to control coronavirus, we somehow eradicated like the common cold, because normally somebody would be sick right now around me and I haven't had anybody sick of anything, you know? So it's like, what's going on? Like, I don't know, you know, maybe we substitute one bad thing for a worse thing, but like, dude, cold's got us every single year and everyone around me is like, no, we're doing good.
Yeah, maybe a little social distancing and maybe some things like that. Maybe it would help a ton with the common cold and flu. You know, the flu kills a lot of people too. And so maybe we implement a small amount of this or something. But it's just interesting because we've never even considered, not in the United States, like this is something that we never even looked at. And when it comes to this situation, I'm a firm believer that we didn't need to really do anything and that we would end up with the same amount of, but we'll never know. We'll never know. You know, that's my own opinion. That's my own belief. We'll never really truly know. I do understand why they did it, because they didn't want that many people getting sick that quickly. Even though we would have gotten through everything a lot faster, they didn't want that many people, having to need medical attention. So it makes sense from that perspective.
Yeah. Do you guys know moving forward, like how long this lockdown that we're currently in is supposed to go? Like, we were talking about it yesterday, and it's like, oh man, hopefully, it is up before next summer. I'm like, but I don't even know what the proposed plan is. So
typical pandemics throughout history, they last like about 18 months, and we're getting there. So that's about how fucking long they take. And it might be different nowadays because the amount of travel that people have and people do, and people get around more, and there's just a lot more things to consider nowadays just because of technology. But they usually take about 18 months. So I think we're getting close to a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're getting close to, I guess, like I don't know.
February,
it depends
March.
On when you start it. Yeah, it depends. Just say it's March. So then we have like August or September. Like shit should be pretty cool. Especially, that'll give a couple months for the vaccine to be out there. And I don't think there's any concern either about the vaccine, or like whether people should do it or shouldn't do it. I think there's enough people that are excited to go do it that it's fine, and that it will work out. And the people that aren't excited to go do it and that won't do it, I don't think there's any. I just don't think it's a big deal. I think enough people are excited to go get it. Enough people are excited to go take the vaccine, that everything will balance out with the amount of people that already had the coronavirus.
Yeah. Have you guys seen those the vaccine videos? Have you guys watched any of those?
I seen one that Bo Hightower posted. Is that the one?
Go for it. Talk about it.
Yeah. So, and I joked because I'm like, okay, whoever that is, I want them to administer my vaccine. It was two. I'll just say nurses, because I don't know exactly what they're like. I don't know if they were doctors. I don't know what they were, but two guys, in full on, whatever gear. And they're administering the vaccine to one of them. So it's one nurse to the other. And it's an empty needle. Like he like punctures, and he tries to push, and you see him like trying to like, oh shit, it's not there. And he kind of like pulls it out a little bit, and then he pushes again. And they're like, oh, yep, that's the first of the two, whatever injections or whatever. And people are like, wait a second, that's empty. And so I was joking. I'm like, either they're very incompetent, or they know what they're doing and they're trying to avoid the vaccine. So I want those guys to do mine. But I was cracking up too. It was really good.
Yeah, your boy is gonna just. I'm just gonna be in waiting mode. I'm gonna see how this goes for another year or two, and I'll probably just wait even longer.
Yeah,
I'm probably just gonna dodge it.
Yeah, because
also it's an opportunity to step aside and like let other people get it that feel that they really need it.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I was. That's where my point is. I don't want to take a vaccine away from someone who really needs it, right?
Yeah, and I probably shouldn't have been listening in, but somebody who I may or know or not know who works for a certain medical company, blah blah blah. They had a company-wide Zoom call basically, where like if you work in the hospital, you have to get the vaccine, blah blah blah. For everyone else, it'll roll out to them eventually, those that are working remote. And it's pretty interesting. They're like, if you work at home and you're around other people, wear a mask. Like they're just saying, in your own house, wear a mask. They're saying when you get the vaccine, you still need to wear a mask because you can still transmit or whatever. When you get the vaccine, you can still get the virus, so it doesn't totally protect you. They're like, so you can't just go out, willy-nilly and not protect yourself. But I'm like, well, that's interesting that they're telling you that you're going to receive the vaccine whether you like it or not, and then on top of that, you can still potentially get the virus. And so I'm like, well, damn. Like, I hope those that are really waiting on this don't necessarily hear that, because I don't want them to still be freaked out after getting the virus. I hope that they receive the vaccine and then they're like, all right, yeah, it's time to start opening things up and let's start getting back to normalcy. But when I heard that, I'm like, well, what's the point? And it was interesting because like the person that was speaking was like, yeah, if you're going to have people over for, you know, the holidays, maintain 6 feet or more, everybody wear a mask, da 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 da. And I wanted to hop in and be like, do you plan on doing that? You know, like just to be like, okay, the person who said this is full of shit because there's no way that they're going to not, you know, it just, or maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know, I just thought it was really interesting that they're like, yeah, you get the vaccine, you can still get it. So, you know, still be cautious around other people. And I was just like, all right, well, not that I needed another reason to not really be interested in the vaccine, but to know that it doesn't totally, you know, so I'm like, oh, it's basically the common cold again, or it's the flu, right? Like every year we're going to get a new vaccine for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that this, like when I said that 18 months, I don't mean that the thing's going to disappear, and I don't mean it's going to be, you know, at 18 months, you know, it might take longer or whatever, but
it'd be funny if that was true though.
it's approximately how long these things just need to like run their course. You know, it's like, how long does the winter last? You know, it lasts a certain amount of time, and every year it's slightly different, but it just lasts a certain amount of time. With the vaccine, you know, I'm not really, you know, I'm not really like a conspiracy theorist, or I don't think there's anything too crazy. Like, I don't know if there's like a chip in there and like all that kind of stuff. And when it comes to like whether it's healthy or not, you know, I think that they did do a really good job of like getting a product out there. There's most of the medical community, and maybe it's just hopeful, or maybe they have vested interest, so it's hard to tell. But most people agree that this is pretty damn good. And I think and maybe pretty damn good isn't good enough for most people, but I think they said like 98% or something. It protects you by like 98%. I don't know if I have those stats correct or not, but that's pretty wild because vaccines don't usually do that. They usually don't work that good. The vaccine, like, you know, because you get a vaccine for like a flu, and it's kind of a guess on what kind of flu is out there. I think that this particular vaccine it will, you know, is fairly guaranteed to help prevent you get the coronavirus. But I don't know a ton about that topic necessarily, but just from what I've heard, you know, that 98% is pretty staggering. And then if you're somebody that is already fairly healthy, your risk was super low anyway. And now it's just like damn near impossible, you know, at some point for you to get it. So it just all depends on how you look at it. I think some people are concerned that they'll get the shot and it might impact their immunity in a negative way, or there'll be some sort of negative repercussions down the road, 10 years from now or something like that. I do want to say that I think they've been celebrating this thing coming, you know, they've been celebrating how quickly it got here, and still President Trump is not getting any credit for Project Warp Speed. And I just think it's like, I just think, I know, isn't that amazing? It's such an amazing name. Sounds like something from Spaceballs or something like that. Project Warp Speed. I just think it's interesting because people want to like throw so much shit at him and give him so much flack for everything. And I would say that like he was a big part of this. He's a big part of, you know, why we have a vaccine. People wanted a vaccine. You know, a huge number of people wanted a vaccine. People think that we need a vaccine. And I don't know how direct he was involved in creating this, you know, but it seemed like he did everything he could to free up the companies so that they could get us a vaccine quickly. And maybe we should see if we can get a rep from one of these companies, and maybe they can speak about it in a different way. Maybe he got in the way for all I know, but it seems like he was pretty responsible for it. And they don't mention him at all on any of the news. They don't fucking talk about him at all. No one's like, thank God, like he, you know, he pushed some of these agendas along so that he can get these things done faster. But I think that's what it's like being President Trump, I think.
Yeah. I think getting a rep like that would be freaking awesome. But I was also thinking about maybe circling back and getting some of the doctors that we had on, in regards to all this stuff and get their opinion on the vaccine. I could be way wrong, but from what I understand, it's not like a flu vaccine where they give you like a basically a dead version of the flu so that way your body can develop antibodies to fight that one virus off. I think it's something different. I might have just made that all up, but when I heard that, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it's not quite what I was fearing the most, which is like, oh, we're going to give you, baby corona, and then you'll get over that, but you'll get sick for a little bit, but then you'll be fine. Kind of like how most people feel about the flu virus. But in regards to, I've said in regards way too much this episode, by the way. But thinking about conspiracy theories or whatever for the vaccine, it just seems like somebody definitely made a shit ton of money. Not sure who, because that thing came way too fast. Like that's
quick.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing where I'm like, man, like that was really, really.
Yeah, I bought
fast.
some stock in it, so I'm good to go.
Hell yeah!
Wait, really?
Oh, hell yeah!
What was the company?
I think it's. I'm not sure if it's the Moderna one or if it's the other one. It's whatever one doesn't have to be as cold. I forget which one it is.
Yeah, good move.
Hell yeah! I was on that shit right away.
See, I don't think of shit like that, but
it multiplied by like 20,
of course.
like 20 like instantly. But the key is like when do you kind of sell it off or whatever,
Yeah. See, man,
Moderna went up.
That's a lot. I think that might be the one that I can't remember. My wife did it, but
yeah. Wow.
I got to open my mind to more stuff like that, because I will kind of see something, but I won't think of stocks.
I'm like, fuck that vaccine. I ain't getting one of those. I'm like, but I'll buy stock in it.
So when somebody says, do you buy stock in vaccine marketing? Be like, yep, I did. Like, no, that's not what I meant. But yeah.
I mean, like, yeah. What do you guys think? Do you guys think it's like in vaccines in general? Are you guys, like you're having a baby coming up, and I think that little sucker gets like
a lot.
I think like almost not necessarily automatically, but it's standard protocol for the child to get like 12 or 16 shots or something right out of the gate. Yeah.
That was actually one of my it might be the biggest concern, in regards to, like, there I go with that damn word again. As far as raising this bad boy is, like you hear like, oh, autism, you hear this, you hear that, don't know what's true, what's not. So I am going to reach out to our mutual friend of the show, Gabrielle Lyon. And she's like, she just had one and she's having another one. And she's like, I will give you the schedule that I believe in. Mm-hmm. She's a doctor, so I'm going to listen to her over whatever I Google search and whatnot. So I don't know what that schedule is, but apparently she has like a certain protocol when it comes to like maybe not doing it all at once, maybe doing it over a time period and maybe pulling some out. I'm not sure. So I will, discuss that with her and go from there.
Take notes and then get back to us on that.
Yeah.
For future reference.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's what I plan on doing. I don't normally get any, like flu shots or anything like that. I got whatever I was, I had to get back in like junior high and stuff to play like basketball or whatever. But other than that, like if I can get away with not taking a flu shot, then I won't. When I worked in like medical records, I had to get one, which I was really upset about. And I think maybe that's part of why I'm so like, if I don't have to get one, I'm not going to get one now because of that experience.
We're also different that it's so hard to say, like it's hard to tell, like you could say, oh, I've had this back problem forever. And we could say, yeah, maybe that's connected, or you've had allergies, or you had A, B, or C. But each one of us, I assume, had all similar shots. I'm a little older than you guys, but we probably had similar shots when we were babies, and sometimes they just will, they'll give children stuff just because they can, and just because they have it, and just because, and this is where things get really weird. It's like certain bills get passed and then you're just like, well, this seems pretty shady. This doesn't really seem like as much as a safety concern as it is like somebody's getting paid and the thing's really not causing any harm, so to speak, or we don't think it is, or don't know that it is, or we can't prove that it is. And so therefore, let's tack on, a couple more shots because they're already getting 7. So what's the difference between 7 and 11? What's, just hit them all up with all that, so it's a hard thing, but, we used to not have any of them, used to not have vaccines, and, people survived, we wouldn't be here. People survived without them, but people also didn't live nearly as long. So
correct.
And there's some shit out there that's nasty. Like, I don't know if you guys heard, like, people ever talk about like shingles and things like that, but like there's stuff that you can get that's just like, you're like, yeah, man, I'd go get a vaccine for that shit. Like that sounds, usually I think 45 or 50, like I would be in line with, potentially, I know people that have gotten that before. Like part of your face gets like paralyzed or something and you get rashes on your face. I mean, stuff that people can visibly see, like it just sounds horrible. So if you can fucking bypass that by going to get a shot that maybe, like, let's just hypothetically say the shot takes 2 years off your life. I mean, you'll never really know, but it's better than walking around with a bunch of, with side of your face paralyzed for however long. I mean, one of the guys we're going to have on the show coming up, the guy that, created Champion Nutrition, Michael Zampano, he talked about having shingles and it went into his eye, like went to his eyeball, and he had to have like surgery and just wild shit. So it's like sometimes, as much as we talk about, we had anti-vaxxers and things like that, people like a Kyle Kingsbury, who's more of a, naturalist, and he wants things to be kind of naturally occurring and stuff. It's like, yeah, I'm all for stuff being natural, but stuff's not natural anymore. We've fucking done a lot of damage to the planet and done a lot of things that we probably shouldn't have. And so therefore there's going to be some weird mutations of shit floating around. And if you get a vaccine for it and if it helps prevent it, then maybe it's not the worst idea.
Yeah. I looked up images of it and it was just shocking.
Yeah. You can't do that.
Shocking. I haven't gotten a vaccine since I was like 16. I got the flu vaccine and, that was the year I got the worst flu ever. Like after that vaccine, it was like the worst flu ever. And I haven't.
You were born in a teepee, right?
No, it was a hut. It was a hut with bricks.
A hut made out of clay and mud.
Clay and mud, exactly. But I think I was vaccinated as a kid, pretty sure. Did your parents ever take you guys to chickenpox parties? Like, were you guys in that? Because I was put in that. I got chickenpox. Yeah, there's a picture of me when I was a kid and I had stuff all over my face because of it. But
yeah, it doesn't really do much to you as a kid. You might get a little bit sick and you get like itchy and you get some of that. You got marks on you, and then it's over with.
Then it goes away. But apparently, if you get chickenpox as an adult, it's deadly. So
right,
yeah, it'll mess you up. Yeah.
Yeah. So nah. Do we want to talk about the Olympia at all?
Let's do it.
Ooh, yeah, when you were talking about Tom's experience, I'm like, I wonder what it was like at the Olympia.
Why didn't you compete in Nsima? Did you end up, you had an injury or something? You couldn't do it?
For real?
Yeah, I was just feeling I wasn't feeling the greatest this year, so I chose not to go try to take the crown. It'd be easy though. It's not that difficult.
These guys aren't that big. These guys aren't that big.
They're not that big. Big Ramy's only like 285 pounds lean. What is that?
So freaky up there.
Congrats to him, man, on pulling out a victory. Fucking awesome for Phil Heath. I think Phil Heath came in third. Is it Brandon Curry? Was he number 2 or somebody else?
Second? Mm-hmm. Brandon Curry was second. Hadi Chupan was fourth. And that a lot of people are saying that Hadi guy, because when you look at the pictures of that guy versus Phil, he looked kind of better than Phil.
Is he he's a lighter guy, right, than some of the other guys? Maybe a little light.
Maybe a little bit, but not as light as that guy who got fifth. William Bonac is like the smallest guy in that lineup. He got fifth. He's much lighter than all the other guys, but he looks amazing.
What do you guys think of? I mean, these guys are shredded. I mean, they got striations everywhere, but I noticed through the midsection, a lot of them didn't look. I don't know. They just didn't. They didn't look as tight as you would think. Being that condition and being Olympia level, and maybe there's a sacrifice there for the having bigger arms and bigger lats and things like that. What do you guys think about that? Because I see other competitors in different divisions or different classes, and their stomachs look better. And to me, like, maybe that's just something that I recognize, but that's kind of like where I look first when I'm trying to see if someone's really lean. Is you look at their stomach, and then you usually look at like the back, and you see like the striations in the erectors and things like that. And I didn't see some of that from some of these guys.
That's why classic physique exists, because like, you know, you're not gonna get many bodybuilders who have a very tapered, you know, like waist area.
They're just so big and have to eat so much food.
Yeah, you know, even Big Ramy, like as good as he looked, it was kind of surprising because symmetrically he was just kind of blocky, you know, like everything was just like a boom, 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 boom. Like he's very blocky, even though he's much bigger and he was actually much leaner than everybody else. But that's just what bodybuilding is now. But that's why people like classic bodybuilding so much. Like I like the way those classic bodybuilders look way more than the bodybuilders, because the classic bodybuilders, they look aesthetically pleasing, you know?
Yeah, looking at Big Ramy's legs, I was like,
oh my God.
It looks like he had like a couple bodybuilders like for legs, you know, like he looked freaky. And I heard, or I read a lot of people saying the same thing, was like, you know, it's like there's no symmetry there. Like he's just big, and, you know, he won because he was just bigger than everybody. So yeah, I actually didn't even pay attention to the midsection, just because I'm like, dude, I can't stop staring at those freaking huge legs. Like they were enormous.
When he hit the side chest, you know, there's this muscle, like if you, I don't know if you guys were looking at his side chest pose, there's a muscle in the leg that if you compare it to everybody else's, it's like 2 times bigger. I don't know what the name of it is, but it's like, you just got to look at Big Ramy's side chest versus the others and you will see it. It's absolutely obvious, and it's scary. It's legitimately scary.
Seems in general to be a pretty big guy. Like on stage, he looked so huge compared to the other competitors. Even when they were just transitioning from one pose to another, your eyes are just kind of drawn to him because you're like, that guy's fucking massive. Like, what's going on with this guy?
Yeah. His transformation too, though, man, from when he started training to who he is now, like apparently he stepped into the gym at like 180 pounds.
No way.
Imagine that. Like talk about just crazy genes. Like 180 pounds, he stepped into the gym, and then he ends up getting up to 280 after a few years. Like 200 something, 300 something after a few years. It's really crazy. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah. Do you know what is that what he weighed on stage?
Oh, he was 285 on stage. That means his off season is like 3 something. Yeah. He was huge.
Yeah. Because he's obviously been competing for a while, but like, I remember that was like the thing, right? Like he couldn't like get it all together, like for the show day, like on the day of the competition. And finally people were like, he got his conditioning right, and he finally put it all together at the right time. I don't know if you know anything about that, but I'm like, how the heck does this guy has he not won before? Because he is just like next to Phil Heath. Like, dude, he made him look like, dude. Big Ramy was just insane. He looks so huge.
I mean, he placed second, I think, two or 3 years ago. He just slowly moved up the ranks like other people. I think the first time he went to Olympia, he got like 7th or 8th, and he was like 5th, 4th, 2nd, and now he won.
I almost wish the competitions were just about being like as shredded as possible. I realize that. I realize that might be pretty dangerous, but like, I'm checking out this video from Chris. Is it Chris Bumstead? Is that how you say his last name? Or Steve?
Yeah, Bumstead.
Yeah, he looks amazing, but I'd also say that he looks almost like not as lean as he has looked before, and his legs are huge. I don't know. There's something that happens to these guys that they've been training for so long and training so hard. They just continue to get bigger, which is fucking sick. It's awesome. But I remember back in the day, like even Dorian Yates, who was built like a block, when Dorian would flex his like serratus muscles and stuff, and then he'd kind of cranked down on those. It just looked insane. It had like striations in them. And I realize he's also one of the all-time greats, but you know, kind of gone are the days of kind of looking like, and Lee Haney's also, you know, he's one of the goats, right? So it's hard to compare, you know, anyone to some of those guys, but that look that Lee Haney had back in the day was just ridiculous. That tiny waist, huge chest. I mean, he had kind of a modern day, but he's really not talked about that much, which is it's kind of strange. He had a modern day physique that was better than what Arnold had. You know, Arnold kind of had, if there is such thing as a natural look, Arnold somehow kind of blended the two together where he kind of just looked like he was that way, which obviously he wasn't. He had to fucking train his ass off and do a lot of other things to get there. But
Dexter Jackson kind of had that earlier in his career too,
right?
Like his
blade,
midline was just
because he was so shredded. Yeah,
yeah, shredded. But then he also had a small waist. You know, he didn't have that blocky old waist. And then what's that other guy's name? Cedric McMillan has that.
Yeah,
right. But
yeah,
I didn't see him compete at all, so I don't know. But yeah, he has that look too. But it's not going to make it.
Sometimes the legs get so big that they just look odd. You know, they look like swollen. You know, and it starts to make the guys look short, even if they're not short. Makes them compact
because they're just as wide as they are tall at that point. You know, so they look just like squares.
Did Dexter compete again?
Yeah, he did, but he didn't place top 5. This is his last Olympia, so I don't know what he placed. Let's look that up.
It's also hard too, like seeing them on stage is like if we saw any of these guys up close, you know, for as good as they look on stage, they look a million times better if you were able to see them or see them training in a gym. You know, there's veins popping out of everywhere. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see. I think they shot some of that stuff with Phil Heath, and it'd be interesting to see, how some of that goes down. And anybody have any idea, like whether he said he's going to continue competing or anything like that?
Not yet. I have no idea. But it's. I think what's really cool is that this Olympia kind of just shows that the judging isn't as skewed as you would think. Because a lot of people were expecting, since Phil's coming back and he has this documentary and all of this, like that they would try to have Phil win because it would just look so much better for all of that. But no, you know, he didn't come in like he looked great, but he didn't look like the Phil from a few years ago. And because of that, like somebody else won. You know, so I think that's good.
Yeah. Do you guys think it's just because he did take some time off, or you know,
he had that surgery for his stomach, you know, and it didn't look the same?
Or do you think it's more like a passing of the torch at this point?
I feel like he could come back because I you know, he did his surgery and then he started training hard for this year, right? I feel like another year and I think he could win it again because he still looked crazy. He still looked good. It's just certain things weren't there, and I think it was just time. I think it was just a time thing. But if he's able to get it this year, or get his training right at this year and get his diet right, I think he could really very well come back and win if he could bring back that old physique, because he just looks nutty. It's crazy.
He might need more time.
Yeah.
Some of these guys, it's just challenging. You know, I'm looking at some of the classic physique guys posing, and like they're just some of them just aren't tall. And so like you stand next to these other guys that are tall for bodybuilding, you know, 6 foot or above. And it's hard to just not be like outshined or overshadowed by those taller athletes. The guy that came in second and third, I mean, they're peeled up like you wouldn't fucking believe. They're so shredded. They look amazing. In
classic or in bodybuilding?
In classic physique.
In classic, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they just look. Everybody looks incredible, but they just there's just something about like being only up to the guy's shoulder. That kind of. I don't know.
Are you right?
It's hopefully they don't judge just on that. Right? They're looking at a lot of other stuff, but it's got to be tough when the other guy's so much bigger. The guy's standing there like Coleman back in the day. he seemed like he was 6'5" or something, and he's probably 6 feet tall.
Yeah, well, it's just natural. To when something catches your eye, it's usually the biggest thing in the room or whatever, and it's just these guys are just freaking huge.
Dude, I didn't realize Big Ramy is 5'10". I thought Big Ramy was maybe 6'1", 6'2", but he's 5'10". Wow. Brandon Curry's 5'7". Phil Heath is 5'9". I didn't know this. Wow. Right? Picture that. Picture that real quick, Andrew.
Well, no, I literally have the picture of him next to Mark, and it's so funny. You have this image in your head of like these guys are larger than life. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, no, yeah, he was way taller than Mark, but I'll have to go back and look in the picture because he's probably the same height or shorter.
Mark isn't 5'9".
But that's what I mean,
Yeah.
Like in my head, I'm like, whoa, like Big Ramy, like I thought for sure he was like at least 11 feet tall on stage. Like he just looked huge.
That's interesting. Cool.
All right, man. Well, it's a good show. And Andrew, why don't you take us on out of here, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to try to get this episode out literally today on Monday. So when that all works out, if you guys aren't registered for markbell.com, right now is the absolute best time to do it. Mainly because we have Mark Bell coming on markbell.com.
Oh my God.
I know we have our Super Friends series, but in this scenario, Jesse is going to be interviewing Mark, talking about, maybe some of the West Side days, some of the old super training days before the slingshot was invented. So a lot of funny old school stories, and when these two silly geese get together, it is just it's amazing. So I really want you guys to be a part of all that. That's going down this Wednesday. I'll have to check the time. I believe it's somewhere around 9:00. Not sure, I'll double check, but yeah, so markbell.com, register. You get free trial for 7 days. So if you register today, you guys will gain access to that on Wednesday. Mark your calendars because you're not going to want to miss that. Huge shout out and thank you to Element for sponsoring today's episode. For more information on them, please check the description down below on YouTube, Facebook, as well as the iTunes show notes. drinklmnt.com/power project. And then please make sure to follow the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on Twitter. And one last thing about the podcast, which is the newsletter. Mark and we shot some more stuff last week that you guys are going to love. It's exclusive content that you're only going to find via the newsletter. So check the links in the description as well for that. And while you're at it, send that to a friend so that way they can, squat up with you guys and receive the newsletter. My Instagram and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. Nsima, where are you at?
Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, and Nsima Inyang on Twitter. Mark.
I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch y'all later.
Ow.